Hey everyone, welcome back to Cutting Through the Noise Whiteboard Edition. Today we're talking about higher ed retention marketing. Applies to all different verticals, whether it's e-commerce, tourism, or sales. We're using higher ed because it's a great illustration of how retention marketing can provide some serious impact if you're not already doing it. So anybody in the enrollment world or higher ed world is familiar with the sort of enrollment funnel here. We've started a bit lower than most people are probably used to seeing with applicants. That starts our funnel, moving on to accepted, down to registered, enrolled, graduated, and then finally alumni doing great things for your university. You can see that I've starred accepted and registered because that's where I want to focus our conversation today, specifically our marketing tactics. What can universities do, specifically enrollment and marketing offices do, when a student has already been accepted and even when a student has registered for classes but the first day of classes hasn't yet started? Depending on how your orientation and registration looks for your university, this can be such a key point to avoid some of that ever fearful melt where somebody registers but then they don't show up on that first day, or even somebody's accepted, which happens all the time with students today, but they don't end up coming to orientation or registering. So as you can see, we're moving down into the retention phase. This is our next marketing funnel. This is the framework that we here at Pintler Group use all the time. Activation, this is getting new students to your website, new potential students to your website, so that's not what we're talking about today. Retention is once they've actually taken that action that you want them to take, so in this case it's applied and been accepted, how do you then get them to stay there? How do you then get them to take that next step, which is enroll? So a lot of times a lot of marketing focus for higher ed is on things like billboards or emails or packets to potential students. Maybe you've purchased a list of names from the SAT. Maybe you've got a ton of names from college fairs. But what often gets missed is this ever important retention phase. Somebody's been accepted, somebody's actually even registered, and the communication sort of stops. They're now in the registrar's hands or they're in the financial aid's hands. Wrong answer. What you want to do is make sure that you're continuing to give them really great messaging. You can do that a couple ways, and we've listed 4 here. The first is email. Of course, you can use their emails to tell them, hey, you've been accepted, here's some accepted student visit days, which I know is a thing, a great retention tactic. In addition, you could upload those emails into platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Spotify, LinkedIn, you name it, Hulu, and you can actually serve them really great messages that your university is already producing and sending to prospective students, but just affirming their decision that, hey, I've been accepted, I've actually registered for classes, now the messages that I'm seeing are just confirming the decision that I've made. You can do that through video. We love YouTube here. As you can tell, we're recording a YouTube video. Video is a really powerful asset for colleges. One way you can do this is through YouTube. You say, okay, anybody that's been to our accepted student visit day, or maybe anybody that's been to our orientation, anytime they go to YouTube, we want them to see a university video. Let's pretend you're the University of Montana here in Missoula. You want them to make sure, you want any accepted or even enrolled student, registered student, to see those videos, those positive messages. Retargeting, this is pretty straightforward. Somebody has been to the accepted student visit day website, or maybe they've been to the orientation website. Clearly they're lower in the funnel, as we've described here. Pages that are associated with registering or accepted students that probably nobody up here is visiting. Somebody who's visiting the application page, you're not worried about retargeting them. For the retention phase, you're just showing messages, hey, summer's almost over, we're so excited to have you on campus, now's the time. And finally, an accepted student or even a registered student podcast could be a really great asset to have as a university. That's something that we do here. We record a ton of podcasts, both virtually and here in person in our studio. What you could do, a couple ideas might be somebody that is traveling in from out of state to your university who's not yet started. They're a senior, it's their senior year, it's their summer between their senior year and starting at your university. Have them record a podcast. Have your admissions director or even a current student talk to them about what are you nervous about? What haven't you figured out yet? And, are you looking forward to residence hall life? Are you fearful? Other students might listen to that and think, okay, yeah, I'm also coming from out of state. What are they talking about? How can they help relieve some of the anxiety that I'm feeling moving far away from home? Or if they're local, are you living with your folks? Are you coming to campus? What's your story? you can see the theme here, assets that you own. So you own the email address, meaning it's not Facebook that can say, oh, we're going to show that message to 1,000 people or maybe 100 today. Email is something you control. Video assets are something that you own, you control. Same thing with podcasting. And retargeting, you're simply showing messages to people that have already been on your site. Last but not least, this is a sequence sort of tying into video. What you can do is if you have 3 really powerful videos that might be great for the retention phase, showing students that are already registered, that could be helpful. It could be you're accepted, you registered for classes, but you don't have a place to live yet. Here's what you need to do. Sort of trickling in those different videos. It could be a really great tactic, again, in the retention phase. And you can set that up. So you can say the first video that somebody sees on a YouTube advertisement or pre-roll ad might be the welcome video. The second video might be the student spotlight. And the third might be your, the current student from California talking to other admitted students from California about how excited they are to welcome them to campus. That's a pretty quick rundown of our retention strategy. There's obviously a lot that goes into that, and we can list dozens of more ideas here for the retention phase. But again, make sure during your marketing conversations that you're talking not only about the activation and acquiring new students to apply and inquire and visit campus, but once they've done those things that you want them to do, making sure that you're not losing them before they actually arrive on campus. Have any questions, feel free to reach out. That's been Whiteboard edition of Cutting Through the Noise.